When a fire breaks out at the screening of a 1980s slasher classic, a group of teens escapes by cutting through and walking into the screen where they end up inside the movie they were watching. Now, while this isn't always the case, a general rule of thumb for me is a horror movie should be rated R and it shouldn't be that funny. The Final Girls breaks both of these as it's only rated PG-13 and it's pretty hilarious, but I wouldn't change a thing about it. And while the movie isn't scary at all, I don't think I'd call it family friendly, but it is a movie that I can recommend to people even if they aren't fans of the horror genre. Throughout the 1980s, it seemed like every summer there was a new movie about a slasher killer at a summer camp. You've got Friday the 13th, Sleepaway Camp, The Burning. Now those are the three that come to mind when I think about it, but there are many, many others. The Final Girls basically takes those movies and turns them on their head. All of the tropes in those early 80s movies that made them so ridiculous, they all show up here and they're all played for laughs. The characters in the movie are all stereotypes. You know, there's the horny jock whose goal is only to sleep with every girl at the summer camp. And then there's the girl who just can't keep her shirt on. But because the movie's PG-13, of course, we don't see anything. And then there's the uber nerd who's only cool in 80s movies. Then there's the shy girl who's hot and doesn't even know it. And of course, all of these characters are played by people clearly in their 30s, even though they're supposed to be teenagers. But what makes the Final Girl special is all those characters I just described are characters that are in the movie within the movie. And that movie is called Camp Bloodbath. But there is another group of teens in the Final Girls. And they're from the real world, and they've seen Camp Bloodbath, so they know exactly how everything plays out. So now you've got this group of teens who's repeating the same movie every 92 minutes, and then you've got this other group of teens who's trying to stay alive and survive that 92 minutes, knowing exactly what's going to happen. And while all of this is clever and done very well, it isn't what pushed the movie into great territory for me. See, there's a special relationship between one of the characters from Camp Bloodbath and one of the characters from the real world. Now, this relationship, honestly, it wasn't even needed in the movie. It would have worked without it. But the fact that it exists and it's done so well just really elevates this movie to another level for me. If you're in the right mood, you might have a little bit of an emotional reaction to how things work out for them. And even though the movie is short, the third act does get a little bit long, and the final climactic fight scene, it probably has caused more than a few epileptic seizures. It's just constant lightning, flashing lights, and it goes on a little longer than it should. Unfortunately, The Final Girls wasn't nearly the box office success that I hoped that it would be, and it didn't make enough money to make a sequel, which was perfectly set up at the end of this first movie. If you grew up watching slasher movies, there's a lot to like here. Our lead actress slash final girl in this movie is played by Taissa Farmiga, who, in my opinion, gives a star-making performance. And then there's Adam DeVine, who plays the sleazy, horny jock like only he can. And horny camp counselor Tina, who can't keep her shirt on, is portrayed in the most exaggerated and hilarious way by Angela Trimbur. Much like Scream, The Final Girls has a gimmicky plot that is pulled off so well, it turns out to not be a gimmick at all. Accidentally taking a bunch of Adderall, cinematic fight scenes, flexing your muscles for a girl, horror villains who are clearly modeled after Jason Voorhees, witnessing a murder, yellow VW buses,